Before the ball even bounced for serve on center court that afternoon, something completely off script had already happened across the internet. By the time Alex Eala stepped onto the grass for her fourth-round Wimbledon match, a single highlight of her previous run had already racked up 1.2 million views on the official Wimbledon YouTube channel. Think about that for a second. That clip was pulling more than double the views of any video featuring Novak Djokovic. It was doubling Serena Williams too. And honestly, that is not supposed to happen in the tennis world. Djokovic sits at 24 Grand Slam singles titles. Serena holds 23. They are not just athletes, they are global cultural monuments. Their names carry decades of dominance, relentless pressure, historic weight, and worldwide fame. Yet for one Wimbledon fortnight, a 21-year-old 29th seed from the Philippines became the moment people couldn't stop watching. So the real question isn't just how Alex Eala pulled off the upset. The real question is why the digital world cared so much. Why did people actually click? Why did they stay through the long rallies? Why did they hit share instead of just scrolling past? And why did a brand new story suddenly travel faster than two legendary names combined? Because most folks still operate on this old assumption that fame controls the entire online ecosystem. The bigger the name, the bigger the numbers. The longer the legacy, the wider the attention. The brighter the star, the heavier the clip. But this exact moment flipped that script. Online fame absolutely still matters, but fame doesn't automatically manufacture the biggest emotional reaction. Sometimes the freshest narrative takes the crown. Sometimes a viewer just doesn't want another reminder of what they already know. Sometimes they want that rush of discovering something before the rest of the culture catches up. That is exactly what Alex Eala handed them. She handed them discovery. She handed them shock. She handed them a national first. And then, right after the final point, she handed them raw emotion. That is why that clip moved the way it did. To actually understand the view count, you have to step into the moment. Before her Miami breakthrough in 2025, Eala was floating somewhere around 140 in the world rankings. That is a really strange place to live in professional tennis. You are close enough to truly believe you belong. You are good enough to genuinely scare players with bigger reputations. You are strong enough to sense the breakthrough hovering right around the corner. But outside of dedicated tennis circles, most people still don't know your name. You are not the first player casual fans type into the search bar. You are not the face plastered on the tournament poster. You are not the athlete the world is collectively waiting for. You are still quietly asking people to notice you. Then Miami flipped a switch. Eala started taking down bigger names. She beat top-tier competition out there on those hard courts. She showed the tennis community this wasn't just another cute underdog run. This was a real, sustainable level. But one breakthrough always leaves behind a heavier question. Can you actually do it again? That question followed her straight into Wimbledon, and Wimbledon handed it the biggest possible stage, center court, the defending Wimbledon champion waiting across the net, a 6-time Grand Slam winner, a player who knows exactly how to make massive courts feel claustrophobic. For Eala, the match stacked every ingredient that makes a young athlete tighten up. The stage was enormous, the opponent was battle-tested, the crowd completely understood the weight of the moment, and the pressure didn't creep in slowly. It crashed right into the first set. That opening set turned into the exact kind of tennis sequence that pins people to their seats. It wasn't a quiet tiebreak, it wasn't a routine exchange. It was 11-9 with 2 set points saved, a champion pushing from the baseline, a young challenger absolutely refusing to blink. That is a perfect attention arc. Pressure, danger, delay, release. Every single point gives the viewer one more reason to stay glued. Every rally makes the ending feel more earned. Every saved point sends the same silent signal to the platform. People are still watching. People are not skipping. People need to see how this ends. Then Eala closed out the tiebreak, 11-9. That number actually mattered, not because it was pretty on a scoreboard, but because it proved she didn't ask for permission from the moment. She didn't play like someone hoping the champion would just make a mistake. She attacked. She trusted her reads. She stepped directly into the pressure instead of backing away from it. Then came the second set. This is exactly where a lot of young players lose their footing. They win the dramatic set. They feel the upset getting dangerously close. They start mentally drafting the headline before the match is actually finished. Eala didn't fall into that trap. She kept moving forward. She kept playing clean, disciplined tennis. She took the second set 6-2. Match over. The defending champion was out. The young woman from the Philippines was officially into the 4th round of Wimbledon.
That alone could have easily made the clip popular. A young player taking out the reigning Wimbledon champion on center court is enough to stop any tennis fan in their tracks. But it doesn't fully explain how that clip traveled so far beyond the tennis bubble. Because plenty of great highlights get watched, far fewer actually get shared. And this is the key difference. Clicking is curiosity. Sharing is emotion. Clicking asks what happened. Sharing says you need to feel this too. Eala delivered both. The tiebreak made people click. The post-match interview made people share. After the match, she didn't speak like someone trying to carefully protect a brand image. She didn't make the moment strictly about tactics or strategy. She didn't lead with ranking points, prize money, or the weight of pressure. She went straight back to childhood. Ruffled socks, light-up shoes, chubby cheeks, a little girl in the Philippines training after school with her brother and her grandfather. That completely shifted the entire feeling of the clip. Suddenly, it wasn't just a tennis upset. It was a human story. A young woman had just beaten one of the best players on the planet, and her very first instinct was to remember the kid who started the dream. That is the exact kind of detail people send to someone else. A parent understands it, a young athlete understands it, a Filipino fan feels it in their bones. Even a casual viewer who knows absolutely nothing about WTA rankings can instantly connect with it, because everyone knows the feeling of a dream that started incredibly small. Everyone knows what it means to look back and realize the child version of you would never believe what just happened. That is why the moment crossed over into mainstream conversation. It didn't require tennis knowledge, it required feeling. Djokovic and Serena represent legacy. Alex Eala represented discovery. That difference actually matters a lot. Legacy makes people respect a clip, discovery makes people send it. When Djokovic wins, people are impressed, but they aren't always surprised. When Serena shows up in a Wimbledon highlight, people pay attention, but they already understand the sheer size of her story. Eala was completely different. She was brand new to plenty of casual fans. She was carrying a country that rarely gets handed this kind of tennis spotlight. She was staring down the defending champion, and then she won. That gave the clip something fame alone can't always manufacture. Shock, urgency, emotion, the distinct feeling that a new story was unfolding right in front of your eyes. And then there was the Philippines. This piece cannot be separated from the numbers. For a lot of countries, tennis history already has familiar, deeply rooted names. For the Philippines, this moment felt entirely different. Eala reaching the 4th round of a Grand Slam wasn't just personal progress. It was history, a first, and firsts behave completely differently online. A first gives people permission to gather. A first gives people a reason to tag everyone they know. A first turns a simple highlight into a shared national event. That is something Djokovic and Serena cannot recreate in the same way anymore. Not because they are less important, because they are absolute legends, but their greatness is already cemented. Their fans have already celebrated iconic moments countless times. Another brilliant clip from a legend will still perform well, but it doesn't always feel like you're watching history being born. With Eala, almost every milestone right now carries that exact electricity. A Filipino player reaching the stage, a young woman bringing a new flag deeper into the tournament draw, a rising athlete making people say, "This is ours." That is incredibly powerful, and it explains why the clip moved way past what raw fame would normally predict. This wasn't proof that Eala is more famous than Djokovic or Serena. She is not. It was proof that her story was simply more urgent in that exact window. Fame grabs attention, novelty sparks curiosity, emotion drives sharing, national history gives people a reason to gather. Eala had all 4 stacked perfectly. That is why the view count looks so unusual. It wasn't one magic factor. It was a stack, a dramatic match, a vulnerable interview, a passionate fan base, a historic first. Put those together and suddenly a clip can travel miles further than name value alone would ever suggest. This is also why YouTube numbers are constantly misunderstood. A view count doesn't just tell you who is famous, it tells you what people felt absolutely needed to be passed along. Some clips get watched because the athlete is already known. Other clips explode because the audience feels like they are stumbling on something brand new. Eala was firmly in the second category, and discovery is a seriously powerful feeling. People like being early. They like sending the clip before everyone else has seen it. They like feeling like part of the first wave. That is exactly why rising athletes can sometimes completely outperform legends online. Not forever, not every single time, but in the right moment with the right story, the internet will reward discovery way more than legacy. That is exactly what happened at Wimbledon. A player who was still completely new to plenty of casual fans handed them a moment that felt fresh, deeply emotional, and undeniably historic. The match stopped the scroll. The interview cracked open the emotion. The Philippines handed the moment a community, and tennis watched a new name blast through the noise. That is the actual reason the clip outperformed videos featuring Djokovic and Serena. Not because Eala has their fame, she doesn't. Not because one highlight proves a permanent industry shift, it doesn't. But because in that exact moment, her story carried something their clips simply couldn't match. Newness, shock, emotion, first-time history. That combination can beat fame for a while, and that is exactly why the next chapter matters so much. One viral clip is just a moment. 2 or 3 start to form a pattern. Eala now heads straight into the North American hardcourt swing, with Washington, D.C. and the U.S. Open conversation already building. That is a completely different environment, a different audience, a totally different kind of pressure. American fans might not carry the same emotional buildup as Filipino supporters. Some will only recognize her from that one Wimbledon clip. Some will only know she beat the defending champion. Some will be meeting her story for the very first time. That makes the upcoming test fascinating. fascinating. Can the story travel again when the audience is brand new? Can Eala create another moment that makes people physically stop scrolling? Can the emotion surrounding her survive outside the exact magic of center court? That is exactly what we are about to find out. Because moments like this don't just build view counts, they build actual audiences. They take a player from known strictly by tennis fans to recognized by casual sports watchers. They make people actively search for the next match. They make a name feel familiar long before the next tournament even begins. That is why this Wimbledon clip actually mattered. It wasn't just a highlight reel, it was a doorway. A massive number of people walked right through it and met Alex Eala for the first time. And once that happens, the next story never starts from zero. So when you see a young player completely outperform legends on YouTube, don't just ask who has more fame. Ask what the clip actually gave people. Did it surprise them? Did it hold their attention? Did it make them feel something? Did it give a community a reason to come together? In the case of Alex Eala, the answer is a hard yes. A dramatic tiebreak stopped the scroll. A childhood memory opened the emotion. A Filipino milestone activated a national audience. And a rising player handed casual fans that exact feeling of watching a new story ignite. That isn't just a viral highlight. That is a direct warning shot against the old assumption that fame alone controls attention. Because online, the biggest name doesn't always create the biggest feeling. Sometimes the freshest story does. And for one unforgettable Wimbledon week, Alex Eala had the freshest story in tennis.